Are you nervous at all?
I've seen enough.
Yeah, I know, right? You nervous? How about you? You nervous at all?
My old wings will now make his choice for his new apprentice. Bring forth the hopefuls.
Good luck.
Good luck, guys.
Well, that's good. A hopeful? How did he get picked? Is this a joke?
That burger cuts a real dick, isn't he?
Magic is the bloodstream of the universe. Forget all you know, or think you know. All that you require is your intuition. Now, the power to control the world is in which finger?
Geez, of course it's not that finger, you little asshole. Ooh, same finger. What is that? All right, Willow, you're gonna get this one. It's that one.
No apprentice this year.
What? How can I possibly be wrong? They picked all the other fingers. Oh, you know what? I think I know where the power lies. In this finger! You little ass. Huh. What a weird dream, man. I gotta stop eating all this frozen pizza before bed.
Get upset on the internet. You're assaulted. You're assaulted.
1989. I'm Commander Dan, the commander and lone human inhabitant of the retro station that you're watching right now. And this is Licensed to Play, where we review retro games and see if they're licensed to play anymore. They're based on licensed material like movies or TV shows, comic books, hell, washing detergent, fast food mascots. Listen, if it had a retro game made about a licensed property, we review it. All right? And we give it its license to play right here. Now, this month, we're looking at licensed games with a swords and sorcery twist, with that flare of dragon fire, and troll scat, and dirty goblin dishes, and hobbit feet. Anyway, in other words, we're celebrating Damn Skippy. And this week, folks, we have one of the best properties you could ever base a video game on, and believe me, it's appropriate for this month's theme. Let's take a look back and get a feel for the era from when this property came out. It's the summer of 1988, and George Lucas is about 5 years out from his blockbuster hit, Return of the Jedi, and fans of old George are wondering what's next. Maybe the next Star Wars? Not for another decade. Simmer down, nerds. The next Indiana Jones? Well, that's a year away as filming wraps up all over the world on that one. And it's a big title, but George Lucas wanted to delve into the realms of swords and sorcery, and partnered with director Ron Howard to bring people a vision of a world of Nelwynds and Daikini, of brownies and magic wands, and demon witches looking to sacrifice babies to their evil gods. Not to mention goblins, trolls, and ROUSs.
Rodents of unusual size? I don't think they exist.
You add that all up together, multiply it by Val Kilmer, and add a dragon, and you get Willow. This flick came out in 1988, and I missed it at the theater. But when I finally saw this fun, fast-paced action-adventure title, I was a fan for life. Cambot Jr., let's spool up the history reel and take a look at the production process for this great piece of 80s fantasy. Really? Are you gonna do that every time I say fantasy?
I don't know why I slapped myself on the face. That's fantasy
My
month.
face is all red.
Cambot Jr., enough! We're gonna do it once at the top of the show from now on. You're kind of wearing it out, man. It's ruining fantasy month.
Sorry, boss. It's just so fun. That's the last one I think I had left in me.
Fine, but let's not wear the button out, okay? Moving on. We've talked about George Lucas on License to Play in the past, and how his innovations in tech changed film and made him one of American cinema's greatest pioneers. The man created tech and ways of filming that everyone still uses or bases their innovations on. The Star Wars saga, the three major blockbusters of the 80s, they were effectively over. Lucas wanted to move on to other projects, wanted to explore other media, other genres, so we got a few flicks that were some of my favorites, honestly. Howard the Duck, Temple of Doom, and today's subject, Willow. George Lucas and ILM produced the film's effects, and with Ron Howard providing the heart, the movie was a modest success in the theaters, and a blockbuster once it came to home video, taking its $35 million budget and blooming it to $160 million total. The effects at the time were great for a mid-budget movie, and with a cast of character actors filling the roles of some fantastic written heroes and villains, well, this movie sticks with you, and it sure did me. Willow's one of those movies that grabs hold of you with one of its meaty tentacles, whether it's the story of Willow and the performance of Warwick Davis, or it's just because Val Kilmer's Madmartigan became the guy every kid who plays a fighter in D&D wants to be when they grow up, or if it's just the whole package all at once. Willow's got a lot of appeal, you know? And it's like it hits you like the dust of broken hearts somewhere after Madmartigan has to run away from an angry barbarian for messing around with his lady. Let's take a look at the whole story to see what I mean. The story of Willow centers around Elora Danan, a baby born under prophecy, and the target of the witch queen Bavmorda, who knows that the birth of the child means her reign will soon end, and so she rounds up every baby born under the recent astrological sign and, well, her plans for these kids are not very nice. So, a midwife decides to sacrifice her life for tiny Elora, who is brought to a village of Nelwyns, where she ends up with the Nelwyns, the little people, the small folk, and a family of Nelwyns named the Ufgood family, namely Willow, an aspiring wizard. Willow and the rest of his friends bring Elora Danan to the Daikini Crossroads, where they meet Madmartigan, a prisoner in a crow cage. And folks, from there the story is wild. We've got warriors, dragons, trolls, brownies, fairies, Nelwyns, battles, and Lug. Who's Lug?
Gentlemen, not a woman! Meet Lug.
The world of Willow is even coming back to Disney Plus as a television series, and I for one cannot wait. Willow, when it released, had toys and coloring books. I guess, if you can call these jumped up army men toys. I mean, I suppose it was because they were going to try and make the dragon a toy and wanted to spend as little as possible on plastic. You know, I guess it was around this time when there wasn't going to be any more Star Wars or any other Kenner toys, really, which was proven by the lackluster Raiders toys, if you want my opinion. That's when I fell out of love with action figures, and fell very much in love with video games. Willow had 3 games based on the movie. One was a complex but fun board game. There was a Capcom CPS-1 arcade game, which I'll touch on a bit in the next segment, and the game we're talking about today. This is Willow by Capcom for the NES. My collection of licensed games features a fantastic number of Capcom's takes on Disney titles, and this complete in-box copy of Willow is a treasured part of my collection. And I assure you, we're going to talk about both the arcade game and this game. But this isn't a nostalgia goggles situation, folks. I really, really, really believe Willow for the NES is an example of a company taking a license seriously and delivering an experience that's both exciting and true to the spirit of the license. Cambot Jr., let's dive into an overview of these 2 games for...
Really? Are you sure, boss?
Yeah, you earned it, buddy.
I don't know why I slapped myself on the face. That's fantasy
My
month.
face is all red.
That is Fantasy Month. Alright, let's go. Willow by Capcom for the arcade was a CPS-1 cabinet the same cabinet used for Street Fighter II, Punisher, and Final Fight. This system was great for a number of different styles of games: shooters, beat-em-ups, run-and-guns, hack-and-slash type games. This game has some RPG elements as you purchase new spells and weapon upgrades as you play as Willow and Mad Mardigan, fighting against the Goblin Dogs and the warriors of Bavmorda's army. The game takes place across 7 timed levels: the Daikini Crossroad, Sherlindria's Forest, Finrazel's Island, Sorce's Camp, Tirasleen Castle, and finally, the final battle at Nockmar Castle. There are neat little cutscene interstitials between levels, and you alternate control between Willow and Mad Mardigan across those levels, with Willow armed with spells that he can increase in power and usefulness, and Mad Mardigan armed with better and better swords and armor. The game is fast-paced and was a well-received new arcade machine at the time, and was a favorite of mine the first time I played it at a Circle K, I think, in Lake Mary when I was in high school. I made it an afternoon trip every weekend to hit that game up. The store had Willow and Michael Jackson's Moonwalker Arcade, which were both fun licensed games in their own right. The game for the Nintendo Entertainment System was not an action-packed side-scroller. It's an action-adventure role-playing game. Designed by Akira Kitamura and produced by Tokuro Fujiwara, the director Yoshiki Okamoto, who was lead on Red Dead Revolver before it was handed over to Rockstar, the precursor to the Rockstar's Red Dead series. They tried to craft an action role-playing game that was less niche than other RPGs. Well, in doing so, what they come up with, well, we'll talk about that in the final evaluation, but you'll definitely recognize the gameplay, trust me. The game was released for the Famicom in July of 1989 and for the NES in December of 1989. Now, Famitsu Magazine gave it average marks. I mean, most folks liked it well enough in the US, and the critics didn't ding it too bad when it came out, but there's a lot of static this title gets that is not deserved. But I'm going to let the evaluation speak for itself. So that's Willow for the NES by Capcom. This game is packed with adventure, magic, and folks, it's also full of the lore and everything else from the Willow film. Let's evaluate this title and see if it can fulfill the prophecy of Fantasy Month and earn its license to play. Willow by Capcom for the NES is an action-adventure RPG where you play as Willow Ufgood, aspiring magic user and fated protector of the child Alora Dannon. And the events of the game present you with the world of Willow and the full story, from the Nelwyn village to the Traveler's Inn and Sherlindria's Forest, to the island of Finrazel and the Battle of Tirasleen. This game follows the movie very closely, but adds a little more oomph to the character of Willow. He's not just a guy in peril being saved by Mad Mardigan. Willow uses a sword and a shield in this adventure as he battles his way across the Great Realms and into Nockmar to defeat Bavmorda, Messenger of the Skies. The action here is very tight, but what would you expect from a Capcom title at the height of the Nintendo Entertainment System's popularity? The graphics and sound are also something to note, as they're great as well. The interstitials are also awesome because they're not full of mistranslated Japanese phrases and weird turns of phrase. It reads like a fantasy novel of the time. This game may not be everyone's cup of tea, that's granted, but this game is what I like to call
Hidden Sandwich Certified.
That's right, a hidden sandwich. And you gotta check this one out. I mean, everything that it offers. Graphics, sound, action. If you're pushing yourself, you can get this game finished in about 2 hours, even with the little bit of grinding you need to do near the beginning. And it has a password system that isn't complete nonsense. All of this together, and it stays true to the license, well, there's only one question to ask of Willow for the NES, and that question is, does Willow for the NES have a license to play? Yeah, of course it does. The graphics, sound, and gameplay, not to mention a slavish attention to the translation and detail from the world of Willow, make this one a very easy yes from yours truly. I mean, come on, it's a home run no matter who you are. Check it out. If you can get a copy loose, get one. If you can find a box copy, get one of them too. Now, Margot?
Aye, Commander.
Send that along to the sponsors from Planet X. And don't get down now, folks. Fantasy Month continues. See what I did there, Cambot?
I think everyone saw what you did there, boss.
Anyway, folks, this month, this was this month's ringer, okay? I knew I was going to give this thing a license to play and a hidden sandwich.
Hidden Sandwich Certified.
But more than that, we've got a title on deck so stanky that it would knock a buzzard off a shit wagon, as the old man George Carlin used to say, so prepare yourselves. But for now, remember to always, always stay retro.
You're a salt adult.
Peace.
You're a salt adult. Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. Throwing out a hissy fit, your views ain't in the millions, and every up and comer is a threat to what you're dealing. And instead of getting better, you just spout up on your Facebook, crying on your Twitter bit about how bad your case look. In case you didn't get it yet, allow me to rephrase it. Your grandma than my 4-year-old, I'm actually amazed. Like you couldn't even see the forest for the trees. The writing's on the wall, literally there to see. How you getting salted at a culture blowing up, man? I think there was a point where you stopped growing up, man. Instead of showing up, man, irrationally mad. Don't appropriate impression like the latest fashion fad. It isn't cool or funny to be acting like an edgelord. You alienate friends, pushing closer to the edge more. I don't know how to say it anyway to make it clear. If you're the one unhappy, then the problem's in the mirror. Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. You're a salt adult. Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. The net is a repository for the vast expanses of human knowledge and all the technological advances, and I can't say enough how you gotta be open-minded. Yes, if you're looking for a fight, then you damn well find it. An axe needs grinding, you're not alone. There's a million other nerds who can bitch and moan and groan about how there's a release date delay of the new game. Man, decrease the cliche of your neckbeard. I'm afeared of the intensity of your love for two characters. You claim about some chemistry and they belong together. Every other ship is toast. Call you Cortez when you're like, burn the bowl. Say your ship is sunk and you stunk like the blogger who insisted to you. The review versus Harry Potter versus Julia Roberts. The latter's the victor. You're about to make a victim of some asshole hipster. Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. You're a salt adult. Get upset on the internet. You're a salt adult. S-A-L-T. You look stupid, a real ass. When they heard your rant, the people laugh. But please stop, for a board. You're whining like you wanna win some award. S-A-L-T. You're a salt adult. 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 You're a salt adult.